Hi, everybody. I'm Tamara from Moogly Blog, and I am so excited to be joining you today for a Yarnspirations Lunch and Learn. Since this is live, I hope you'll give me a second here to refresh my little page here on my laptop so I can see your comments and questions as they come in. There's always that little delay with technology, and I have to make sure everything's working here and just sort of click on through. And it looks like we are up and running. So hi, everybody. Once again, I am Tamara from Moogly, and this is the Yarnspirations Lunch and Learn. Today, we are talking about classics made accessible. There's a brand new collection of wonderful patterns up on yarnspirations.com, so definitely go check that out later this afternoon. But they've got some wonderful patterns in there, focusing really on some classic techniques that make really beautiful modern designs. So today we are going to be covering specifically the Bernat mock cable crochet blanket. And hopefully someone from Yarnspirations will be able to drop those links in here. They always are really great about that, so I'm going to let them drop the links in there. This is a beautiful blanket. It is basically the moss stitch with something extra. So it's a really simple pattern made primarily of single crochets and chains. Now, to make this pattern, we're going to be using Bernat Blanket Ombre. You can see right here, this is a beautiful yarn from Yarnspirations. It's the same size. There's 300 grams, which is the same size as you get in the balls of Bernat blanket that you're used to, but it's in a cake form, and it's got these beautiful colors. This is the one called for in the pattern, and then there's this also couldn't speak there for a minute, this beautiful shaded blue ombre, really beautiful. And then this one is called Orange Crush Ombre. Isn't that gorgeous? So these are brand new. I'm very excited. Just got them in the mail the other day, so I had to play with them a little bit and with this pattern. It's really fun. So let's go ahead. We're going to switch on over to the hand camera, and we'll talk about how to crochet the Bernat mock cable crochet blanket. Alrighty. So you can see right here, I've kind of centered the pattern. This is the printout of the pattern itself. It's got written instructions, and I want to point out there are also charted instructions, which is really great. And page 3 is just a really beautiful close-up, but if you are short on ink, you might want to print just pages 1 and 2. Now, as I said, to make this pattern, we'll be using Bernat blanket. You can use regular Bernat blanket if you don't want to use the ombre. And this pattern also calls for a US M9mm crochet hook. Let's see if that wants to focus there. Well, it's a 9mm crochet hook, same size called for there in the pattern. This one's by Susan Bates. So let's go ahead and get started. I've already pulled out a little bit of yarn from this cake here to get it going. Just want to make sure, oh, there we go. Went out of focus there for just a second. All right. So this pattern begins, and they give us this information right in the written pattern. It begins with a foundation chain multiple of 7 chains plus 11. So if you want to make the pattern as written, to the size written, you would start with a chain of 95. We're going to start with a lot fewer than that today, so we can do it here over lunch. So if you do want to customize the size for this, or if you want to go ahead and make a little swatch with me, the easiest way when you've got a stitch multiple like this is to just keep counting to 7 until you have about the width you want, and then add 11 more. So let's go ahead and we'll just do one multiple of 7 plus our 11 today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then I could just keep counting till 7 over and over again until I have about the width I want, and then add 11 more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Need to pull up a little bit more yarn here. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 7 over and over again, and then 11 more. We're going to stop there so we can have our little swatch here over lunchtime. Then we actually start with a foundation row rather than our first row. So this is done kind of so we can take it out of our repeats. We won't be repeating this row at all. We're just going to be working to the chain, so it's a little bit different. We're going to start by working a single crochet in the second chain from the hook. Now this pattern, the way it's written, does not have a border worked into it. So especially with patterns without a border, I really like to work into the back hump of the chain, the underneath hump, if you will, rather than under the top 2 loops, but you can work into whichever part you prefer. I just think that if when you work into the back hump, it leaves those other 2 loops down and makes a little bit nicer looking edge. But again, it's up to you. So I'm going to skip the one closest to the hook and single crochet right in the one after that. Still have to work into that chain. There we go. So there is our first single crochet. Then we are going to chain 1, skip the next chain, and single crochet in the next chain twice. So we chain 1, skip a chain, single crochet in the next chain, chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in the next chain. Then we begin the part, if you're following along with the written instructions, that starts with the asterisk. So this begins the repeat that will take us most of the way across again. We chain 12. This is going to give us the really cool loops on this pattern. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Now you're not going to be crocheting back into these at all, so don't worry about making them real loose or anything. Just try and make them nice and even. Then we come right back down to our chains here, our starting chains, and we're going to single crochet in the very next chain. There we are. So that is what it should look like so far. Then we chain 1, skip the next chain, and single crochet in the next chain 3 times. So chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in the next. That always wants to hide from me. There we go. Chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in the next. And then chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in the next. And that's our repeat. We start again with the chain of 12, and then single crochet in the next, and then chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in the next 3 times. We do that until we get to our last 5 chains. Because we're on our tiny little swatch here, we're at our last 5 chains. So to finish it up, we chain 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, pull up some more yarn again, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And we want to come back down here and try not to twist it. If you do twist it, it's not the end of the world. We're not really, like I say, working back into it or anything, but we want to try and keep it as straight as we can. And then come right back down to that, our beginning chain here, single crochet right in that very next chain. We don't skip any in between our chain 12s there. Then we chain 1, skip the next chain, and single crochet in the next chain twice. So chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in the next, chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in the next. The very last one. There we go. Alrighty, so this is what it should look like at the end of row 1. I'll take a little sip of my water here. Alrighty. So we are continuing on now. We've made the foundation row, and now we're going to make row 1, so actually the first row of the Bernat mock cable crochet blanket, for those who came in a little bit late. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1 in turn. Let's go ahead and do that. And then when we work our row 1 here, we want to make sure that we are pushing these loops forward so that they fall essentially to right now what is the back of our work. This side will be the front side or the right side, but right now we're working from this side, so we want to make sure to push them back. So what we're going to do now is single crochet in that first single crochet. We've already chained 1. Then we single crochet in that chain 1 space. Let me pull up a little bit more yarn here as we continue across. And then, as I say, it's kind of like working the moss stitch, but it's interrupted by these chain 12 loops. So we chain 1, skip the next single crochet, and single crochet in that next chain 1 space. But now we've come to those 2 single crochets that our chain 12 loop is attached to. So now we want to single crochet right into the single crochet at the beginning of the loop. And this is where we push, let me get that out of the way a little bit there. This is where we want to push that loop forward, away from us, and single crochet, go right into that single crochet on the other side of it with another single crochet. Now on the other, you can see how that's pushed out to the other side. Now on the other side of that, we've got a chain 1 space, so we single crochet in there. Then we chain 1, skip the next single crochet, and single crochet in the next chain 1 space. Chain 1, skip the next single crochet in the next chain 1 space. What happens next? Well, we're back at another chain 12 loop. So now we single crochet in the first single crochet at the base of the loop. Again, make sure that that kind of falls back, push it back, however you want to think about it. We want it away from us. Then we can go right into that very next single crochet on the other side and put a single crochet there. Then single crochet in the chain 1 space, chain 1 and skip the next single crochet in the next chain 1 space. And because we've gotten to the end, because we're on our little swatch rather than a full-size blanket, we just single crochet in that very last stitch. So that is what it should look like at the end of row 1. So this is remember we did a foundation row and then the first row. So it's a little different. It's our second row we've made, but it's labeled first row in the pattern. We'll be repeating that one later on as we continue our blanket. So the second row of our repeat, second row of the pattern, we're going to chain 1 and turn. And now we're working from the right side of the blanket again, but we're going to continue to ignore these loops. These loops and all the rest of the loops you'll make as you continue on the blanket are just going to hang out here on the front of the blanket, completely loose, looking very, floppy and big until the very last row of the blanket. So if you look at the picture and you say, oh my gosh, this looks nothing like the picture, don't worry. You don't put them together until the very, very last row. So let's do the second row of our repeat here. We single crochet in that first stitch again. We always have a single crochet in the first and last stitch. We want to keep a nice solid border there. Then we've got a single crochet there. So we're going to chain 1, skip the single crochet in the chain 1 space. Chain 1, skip the next single crochet. But look, this is a single crochet that's worked into a single crochet at the base of our chain 12 loop. We're always going to keep stacking up our single crochets behind that loop. So we skip that first one, but we want a single crochet right here. And again, in the next one, both into the single crochets that were worked into the single crochets at the base of that loop. Then we go back to our moss stitch pattern. We chain 1, skip the next single crochet in the chain 1 space. Chain 1, skip the next single crochet in the next chain 1 space. Chain 1. Oh, what's this? We've got 4 single crochets in a row. It means we're back at that loop section. So we're going to skip that first one, single crochet the next 2, because we know they're kind of our loop base single crochets. That's how I think of them anyway. Then we chain 1, skip that next one, single crochet in the next chain 1 space. Chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space. Or excuse me, in the next chain single crochet. That's what I should say. It's the last stitch. So once again, we've kind of maintained that moss stitch pattern, but we want to always crochet into those stitches behind those loops. So then we've got our third row of our repeat, which is on page 2. I'll change pages there on my pattern, pull up a little bit more yarn. And row 3, we're just going to continue working our same moss stitch pattern up. Even though we're on this right side, it isn't until, I believe, our 4th row that we'll put on our more loops. So we're going to be turning here. For row 3, we're going to turn to the back. We chain 1 and turn. So now we continue working our moss stitch pattern up. Single crochet in that first one. Single crochet in the next chain 1 space. We've got a single crochet there, so we chain 1 and skip it. Single crochet in the next chain 1 space. Chain 1 and skip the next single crochet. Nope, can't do that. There's those 2 single crochets at the bottom, again, of our loop, behind our loop. So whenever we come to those, we don't skip those, we single crochet in each of those. So for the wrong side, when you're working your odd numbered rows here, you can see we're going to have 4 single crochets in a row every time we work behind those loops. So again, this is all spelled out in written instructions in the pattern, but if you kind of, like me, like to find the pattern in it that you can kind of memorize, that you can follow along with, this is kind of how I think about it. So after we've done those, of course, we single crochet in that chain 1 space, chain 1, skip the single crochet in the next chain 1 space, chain 1, skip the next single crochet in that chain 1 space, Now we're at the bottom back of a loop again, so we single crochet in each of those. 1 and 2. There's the chain 1 space on the other side, so we single crochet in there, and then back to our pattern. Chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space till we get to the end, and we single crochet in that very last stitch. So that was our foundation row, and then rows 1 through 3. Row 4 is the last row of our repeat. Rows 1 through 4 are the rows that will repeat to the end, and row 4 is where we start adding our loops again. Row 4 is our loop row. So we start again with a chain 1 and turn. You can tell we're back on the right side here. We're going to single crochet in that first stitch, chain 1, skip the next single crochet in the next chain 1 space, chain 1, skip the next single crochet in that next stitch, and this is one stacked up above that loop. This is where we start our next chain 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Then we need to come back down and single crochet in that very next stitch. And then we go back to our pattern. Chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space. Chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space. Chain 1, skip 1. We've got our group of 4 here, so we're going to skip 1, single crochet in the next, and chain 12. Time for another loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Single crochet right in the next stitch. Then back to our pattern. Chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space. Chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space. We're at the end, so we single crochet in our very last stitch. So there we have it. Our foundation row gives us our first row of loops, and then rows 1 through 4 is our repeat that we follow to the end. We do that until we've got the length we wanted, but we need to end on a 3rd row repeat. So that would be the row before you make another row of chain loops. So I have worked up a much larger swatch here, right up till that point. Now, obviously, I haven't made a whole blanket still. This is a smaller swatch as well. Get a little sip of my water here. But you can see here all my loops. They're all hanging out here on the sides. This is actually upside down. Just finished row 3. I've made 3 rows of the loops. You can see there's 3 more rows after that last row of loops, and they've all been hanging out here on the front. So now we are finally ready for our very last row, where we're going to link up all our loops and secure them across the top. So this is where it gets really fun. Until now, they've all just been hanging out here. Now they're going to become this really beautiful braid. So all we need to do is start at the bottom and go up each column. So you can start, wherever you want to start in the blanket. We'll start here on the left, and I'm just going to take the bottom loop, take the next loop, and put it right through it, just like that. Go up to the next one, pull that through that one, and just like that, all the way up. And you keep doing that all the way up until you get to the top. When you're up there, if you want to, you can use a stitch marker to kind of secure that, especially if you've got a big blanket. You don't want them all coming undone as you do each set. On our little swatch here, I know that one will stay, so let's do our next column here of loops. We start with the next one at the bottom, put the next one right through it, go up to the next one, pull that one right through there, on up, get that. So it stays here while we do our last one. We'll do our last row right here. So this is kind of the really fun part and the magic part, I think. We take our loops and we just put them right through, and look at how beautiful that is. All with just chains and single crochets. We've created what looks like, at a glance, very complicated, some sort of awesome cabling here. It's just those chain 12 loops. So now we are going to finish it off with a row across that secures all of those. So I've got a stitch marker in there. I'm going to be very careful to try not to pull my loops back out here while I get my hook back in my loop, my working yarn here. There we go. Make sure it's in there the right way. And then for our final row, we're going to chain 1. Let's get everything sorted out here. I'm trying to keep it laid flat so my loops all come undone. There we go. So we've chained one. I'm going to pull up some more yarn from this skein now. And now we're actually going to maintain that moss stitch pattern still even in this last row, but we're also going to be screwing down these loops at the same time. So to do that, we are going to start with a single crochet in that first stitch. There we go. Get my yarn on the correct side of me here. Just can't do it. I couldn't crochet with the yarn on my right side. I always have to have it on my left. There we go. So I got my single crochet in my first single crochet. Now we're going to chain one, skip the next stitch, single crochet in that next chain one, chain one again. There we go. Skip the next single crochet, and then single crochet in each of the next 2 single crochets, but at the same time work over the top loop of that chain 12. So this is where we're going to skip that next stitch. We've got those 4 in a row. We're going to single crochet in those 2 in the middle again, but we want to make sure, double check, make sure all our loops are pulled together here and pull those up. So I like to just drop that loop right over my hook, kind of hold it there. You can hold it there just like if it was another loop on your hook. Make sure we skip that next stitch and go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull that loop through, and we're just going to enclose that loop right in the stitch. So we're not crocheting into any of those chains, we're just going right into that whole loop. So we do that again for the next stitch. Just drop that right on top of our hook, go right into that next single crochet, and single crochet right over our loop. And now, just like that, it's nice and secured. Those loops aren't going anywhere. Then we go back to our moss stitch pattern. Chain one, skip the next one, single crochet in the chain one space, chain one, skip the next single crochet in the next chain one space, chain one. We're back at a group of 4, so we know it's time. Check our loops, make sure they haven't pulled out. Go ahead and pull that one up, drop that last loop right over your hook, hold it out of the way here. So I want to make sure to skip that one right there and work into the second of that group of 4 for a single crochet, and then same thing, make sure I go under that loop and then right into the next stitch and single crochet again. So now we've secured 2 of our columns, and we just keep doing this all the way across. So let's go ahead and finish this row together. We'll chain one, skip the next stitch, single crochet in the next chain one space, chain one, skip the next stitch, single crochet in the chain one space, chain one, skip the next stitch. Oh, we're back at our loops. So again, just take the time, make sure none of your loops have come undone, that they're all the way up there. Our hook, go into the next single crochet there for our single crochet. Do it again in the next stitch. Make sure we go right around that loop. And then we just finish it off on across. Chain one, skip the next stitch, single crochet in the next chain one space, chain one, skip the next stitch, single crochet in the very last stitch. And after that, you're all done. At this point, if you want to add a border, you absolutely can. You can add tassels as shown in the pattern or fringe, whatever you want to add to it to really make it your own at this point is totally up to you. You can see it really is just that easy to make those loops and to get that look. So once again, this has been how to crochet the Bernat mock cable crochet blanket, which is available for free on Yarnspirations. We'll go ahead and come back to the other camera, I think. I wanted to thank you guys so much for joining me again today. It's been wonderful to do another Lunch and Learn with Yarnspirations, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye, everybody.